Tired. But I was talking about the making of the Resident Evil 1 video earlier. Yeah, we'll watch some spooky things. There was a video of them talking about it. Like I said, I hope this isn't like something Capcom has like fucking DVD somewhere. I don't know where this is from. But this is the video. Remember the video at the very beginning of Resident Evil 1? It was like the making of for it. Is that Jill with like a fucking silver suit on? There's Barry. Yeah, I think they found them all now, though. I thought there was more dialogue. I guess not. This is like the Capcom offices. There he is. That's where they did the mocap. That's so funny.
Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone situated in northwest Raccoon City, where we're searching for the helicopter of our compatriots Bravo Team, who disappeared during the middle of our mission. No, I haven't found it yet.
No, I haven't found it yet.
Bizarre murder cases have recently occurred in Raccoon City.
What am I looking at?
There are outlandish reports of families being attacked by a group of about 10 people. Victims were apparently eaten.
We're looking at people being eaten?
Bravo Team went to the hideout of the group and disappeared.
Are those eyeballs?
Look, Chris!
Look, Chris.
It was Bravo Team's helicopter. Nobody was in it. But strangely, most of the equipment was still there. However, we soon discovered why.
I didn't see. Oh, is this different for Chris than it is for Jill, maybe? I guess so.
Hey! Come here!
Oh, they do show the end of the hands. It is cut off. That dragon sound. It looks even better in low resolution. I don't remember that cut. Jeez.
No! Don't go!
No! Don't go!
Jill, run for that house!
Run for that house! Just like some fun, someone's dog.
There are only 3 STARS members left now. Captain Wesker, Jill, and myself. We don't know where Barry is.
We don't know where Barry is.
Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine.
Dun, 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 dun.
Barry Burton.
Barry Burton. Okay. Yeah, we just watched that earlier. I thought it had more footage attached to it, but I guess not. I'll have to look for that some other time. Bam, bam. Dun. One of the characters' name is Eula. Could be a meta joke. What else could we watch? I guess we could watch the Wang video about it too. Not like super relevant. Oh, he's got a couple of videos about it. Like 5 videos about it. Damn. Maybe even more. For Genshin Impact. All right, well, what video do you guys want to watch before I wrap it up? Proper People? Something else scary? Animations? What's this video, Goomba? Is this like safe for work, though, this one? Sergey, the hunter. Boom. All right, we could watch this for now. We'll check this out.
Bad Pioneer is a Russian YouTuber. On his channel gathers all kinds of experiences that both his friends and his own subscribers send him by email. A channel that was not so well known until he published the shocking story of Sergey, a hunter who went deep into the Siberian forest.
Sergey is such a badass name.
Reporting what, according to this man, has been the most terrifying experience of his life.
If you're named that, you can't not be a badass.
Then stay. My name is Leonor Clay, and this is The Darkest Secret. Today we present Sergey's terrifying video.
Well, it's like disturbing, but it's not like actually like anything graphic, right?
The guy you see on the screen is precisely Sergey, an experienced hunter who throughout his life heard dozens of stories that spoke of the misfortunes that other hunters had in the so-called taiga, which translated into English as cold forest.
Just all of Russia.
However, Sergey did not care about all this.
Yeah, I just gotta ask, you know, it is.
Stereotype that people have about Russians. They are not afraid of anything. And so ignoring the recommendations
Not everybody is always on the same
hunters
page.
who warned him of the dangers of going alone, he decided to go deep into the Siberian taiga, one of the largest, most remote, and inhospitable regions on the planet. This is one of those places, so big that there is a good chance that there are sectors that have never been explored.
I kind of like
The
this
authorities
narrator.
warn not to go out alone in this place, since the forest is huge. Getting lost here in a place without roads is almost a death sentence.
Sometimes finding like another
But
channel
Sergey is a regular explorer
with like a
He
different
had already
narrator can be
traveled
like,
much of the forest
I don't
in
know,
Siberia.
like some ASMR
His
almost.
philosophy is very attached to nature.
Лес друг, старик седой, мудрый хозяин земли. В прошлый раз я приходил.
Forest friend, gray-haired old man.
Один раз земля вокруг солнца
I
обошла.
marked you to know my place for future
Вот
hunts.
я опять пришел к тебе.
Oh, he's definitely like summoning.
Ты на земле.
I hear like
Я на земле
a mouth harp.
вырос в городе. Но твое время века, мое время года. Будь другом, помоги мне в моем деле. Пусть нынче на засаду
Sergei came here with the intentions of hunting and spending one night there. Without a doubt, a very brave man. Sergei was walking most of the day in an area characterized by having a very marked forest density.
Yeah, I think it's called a mouth harp.
In Sergei's own words, a human has never set foot in it. At sunset, Sergei determined the point where he would set up his tent. It was here where he began his incredible experience.
What are its other names?
With his modest cell phone. All with the idea of recording his anguishing and terrifying story. At approximately 1 a.m, strange noises woke him. According to the description that he puts in the video, it felt like a strange metallic blow in the distance. With it being far away, he ignored it. But a few minutes later, the blow felt much closer to his location. It was then that the uncertainty made him take out the camera and record.
Yeah, being alone in the woods especially is not fun.
Left him speechless.
Unless you're like used to it.
In fact, even with the light of his phone on, he couldn't see beyond a few meters. It is at this point that I ask you to turn up the volume and pay close attention to the noise you will hear.
Oh shit. What the fuck? Sounds like a loudspeaker. Is it not loud enough for you guys?
Твою мать.
What the hell was that?
Хера себе, блядь, это чё?
It did kind of sound like a siren head.
Тихо, тихо, тихо. Твою мать.
What was that? It sounds like an animal. However, by Sergei's amazement, we can assure that it is nothing of the kind. I remind you that this man is an experienced hunter. He recognizes almost all the animal roars of the Russian
Yeah, some
forest.
animals make some fucking weird
But
sounds, man.
bees froze every last drop of his blood.
Especially birds and cats.
Put yourself in his shoes and remember that here there are no roads, villages, nor any type of infrastructure for miles away. Cell phone signals do not reach
Yeah,
either.
deer are creepy.
So if something serious happened to him, he would have no one to
I kind
turn
of like
to.
the narrator's voice.
It is therefore that as soon as he heard those noises, he decided to move from his camp and go about 200 meters away from where those noises were coming, at night, and with little orientation. In this scene, Sergei is preparing himself, just in case whatever it is that is out there should catch up with him. He gets some weapons ready, and
It's
keeps
being
moving.
presented like a normal video.
Ручей поет, вот давай как речки. Давай, 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 давай. Давай. Давай, брат. Брат лихой. Ё-моё. Всё завалено. Опа.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they do out in Russia.
Опять нахуй. О-о-о.
closeness of the noises, Sergei decides to climb a tree. Typical technique of experienced hunters. So maybe whatever's down below can't catch him. At least, that is what he thought.
Unless it's a fucking bear. What? I hear like singing. What the fuck? What? Is he shooting?
Again, put yourself in his shoes. There is no way a human being could follow him so quickly in this darkness, taking in consideration the remoteness of the first sounds. That noise seems to be a woman's cry. By Sergei's logic, this is impossible, and therefore, he shot anywhere, just to let whatever was here know that he was armed. But in this precise scene, there is something very strange that combines with all those voices and cries.
Did you get it?
You heard it right. Among the noise of the shot, a scream that moves away from being human is heard. Later, he would affirm that he continued recording because he hoped that if he was killed there, some other hunter might find the phone one day. Approximately 2 hours passed where no other noise was heard. Serge declared that at that moment he thought the threat was gone, that the shots had scared it. Nonetheless, the nightmare was far from over.
That sounds like Bigfoot.
Давай, ребят. Покажу, блядь.
I don't know why you would be imagining that. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of funny Bigfoot shows. The best one is Mountain Monsters, where those guys just like make up monsters and they go like running around the woods with guns.
Я не боюсь, нахуй. Я что-то нас пойдёт, не боюсь.
Damn.
Я покажу, блядь, гад.
You're afraid of running out of ammo. Zacia PSG, thank you so much for that resub.
One of the
doing
last
well.
footages were taken at dawn
Thank you
of
for that support.
terrible night.
I really appreciate it.
An absolutely symbolic sequence, which indicated that he had survived. Could those noises we hear come from people trying to scare this man?
Ants.
Or was
Ants.
it an unknown animal, as Sergei thinks? And that if so, it could reproduce human sounds. Upon hearing this theory, many immediately associated what Serge experienced with
Connor
what
O'Malley
those
pops up.
unfortunate people could have lived, who tragically and mysteriously lost their lives in the Diatlov Pass that February 1959.
Nothing to
A
do with
case
that.
that shook the entire Soviet Union at that time. People who met a violent death at the hands of something completely unknown. At that moment, whatever it was that took them out of their tents made them run in terror with only their nightwear on. In negative 30 degrees Celsius weather. So far, it is unknown what attacked these hikers. What if Sergei was only a few meters from that thing? A monster capable of reproducing human voices to distract its prey.
Yeah, like a Wendigo. Skinwalker.
As for Sergei, as soon as the rays of the sun settled on the treetops, he left the forest. As you can see, apparently the stories that the old hunters told from this footage were all
I like the footage of the ants.
legends. Who or what was it that stalked Sergei?
Yeah, I probably
that
don't believe it,
night?
but it's still fun to watch
The
videos like that.
answer is at your discretion. My name is Leonor.
That's
Clay.
why I like to watch scary things.
And
Like,
this
half the
was
time I don't believe it's real, but
Secret.
it's fun to pretend for a bit. It's half the fun of it. Also a very good distraction, I feel like, scary things. I like the music and stuff. That was a good video. Good suggestion, Goomba. Yeah, it's, folklore is real. It's true. Real as anything else. All right. What else should we watch? Glitch in the Matrix video came up.
Some time ago, I told you that a new branch within the records that cannot be explained, and
Let's see if this is any good. Apparently this is defying
passed in
reality.
front of a building that looked, to say the least, impossible. Watch.
Well, show the other side. What?
Do you know what was the strangest thing? Our subscriber tells us that she stayed there for several minutes and could actually
Yeah,
see
there's
people
plenty.
coming
I've
and
seen
going.
buildings like that.
Undoubtedly, its shape draws attention, and it seems as if the rest of the building had simply disappeared. How can this structure remain standing?
But yeah, there's obviously more
There is
to
no
it.
doubt that this image is quite strange.
That's kind of
4.
frustrating.
The Gamer Hack is a subscriber who sent me an email explaining that while browsing TikTok, he came across a footage that still keeps replaying in his mind. The reason for that? See for yourself.
There's something wrong with it. What?
To this day, what happened in this video is incomprehensible to our subscriber.
Okay.
No cut is observed.
Like some kids playing airsoft. I think I made my way through a lot of these other videos. We'll watch a few more. What else do we Let's do some weird animations.
My name is Arnie. A couple of years ago in the summer, we
My name
moved
is
into a new
Arnie.
house that was much bigger than our old house. The inside of the house was very huge. Everybody was satisfied with the house. But for some reason, I couldn't get rid of the unnerving feeling. One night, I stayed up late, alone, watching some scary movies on my phone. All of a sudden, I heard what sounded like someone singing. At first, I thought maybe I was just paranoid, or it was coming from the movie I was watching. However, it kept going for like 15 minutes, even though I turned down the volume. I looked at my watch and it was almost 3 a.m. It sounded like a woman, and her voice would get very close to my room. Then it would slowly move through our halls. And then, after a few minutes, it vanished. I was creeped out, but I eventually went back to bed because nothing I could do about it. When I woke up in the morning, I asked my mother and sister if they had heard someone singing last night. They just shook their heads, and they even asked me
No.
if I was okay. I was puzzled by this. So the next night, I decided to stay up to see if the woman would sing again. Later that night, I was almost falling asleep, but then I heard it again. The time was exactly
Go see
3
what it
a.m.
is, man. Oh
I
my
was so
God.
scared,
Not
too
3
scared to
a.m.
go see who or what it was. I was pretty sure that I was the only one who was awake in the house. So I went out into the hallway quietly, and when I turned my head toward the hallway, I froze in fear. There was a woman who I've never seen before standing at the end of the long hallway and staring at me with a blank look. She was wearing a white dress, had long, straight
Her
black
dress
hair,
was made out of
and was
Swiss
singing that
cheese.
same bone-chilling song that I heard when I was in my room. I wanted to run back to my bed, but I couldn't move my legs for some reason. Then, the woman started slowly moving toward me. And what I noticed at that moment still gives me a chill to this day. She wasn't
No,
walking,
the milk is
but
leaking out.
I could say that she was rather hovering
He
a
was an
couple
android
inches
all
off the
along.
ground. As she was coming closer and closer, I could see that her mouth was almost ripping, and that was the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. I eventually passed out, and when I woke up in a panic, it was 3:30 a.m.
Oh no.
I looked around the dark hallway, but she wasn't there
What if it
anymore.
was? What if he was just like it was 4:20
We
a.m.?
still live in that house, and I've heard that dreaded singing from that woman moving throughout my house about twice a month. I told my friends about it, but no
Now we
one
just
ever
kind of hang
believed
out
me.
with her. It becomes a sitcom.
I just hope that no one else has to experience this terrifying thing.
All right. Yeah, that was good. Excellent. Let's watch one more. One more thing. Hmm. The RE8 demo was great. I don't think you get to see the big lady. You see her briefly. You don't get to talk to her. Too busy. She's like getting wine. I had a thing over here. I thought, who the fuck is this motherfucker? The sound that that lady was just making is going to get stuck in my head now, I feel like. What the hell? What is this shit? I just saw it. Her house. Man from the train. Rooters? No. Is that it? I'm losing my damn mind. Oh my. Oh, yeah, this is a little longer. We'll watch that some other time. Put this one on for now.
We have already examined the inexplicable and haunting occurrences at Utah's infamous Skinwalker Ranch.
I love
in
Stardust
previous
Ranch.
episodes. But across the border, in neighboring Arizona,
Stardust
lies
Ranch
another
is
remote
badass.
farmstead with an equally terrifying
This
history.
dude fought aliens with a katana.
This week, we investigate one man's horrifying conflict with extraterrestrial intruders.
He killed an alien with a
pay
sword.
visit to Stardust Ranch.
He claims to have like killed an alien with a sword. It's amazing. Yeah, one of the coolest stories I've ever heard before. Before we even started, I'll show you. Actually, there's footage of this guy talking. And he claims that there was like an alien in the background. Oh man, there was a clip from something else. We're never gonna be able to find it.
Ranch. It's a one-of-a-kind piece of property that just went up for sale in Buckeye.
And its owner says whoever buys it will likely have a lot of unwelcome guests. Lauren Reimer went to check it out tonight.
We have 4 bedrooms in the house.
This seemingly peaceful Buckeye Horse property was recently put on the market.
We have
Buckeye
a
Horse.
deep diving pool.
According to its owner, John Edmonds, Stardust Ranch also has one quality you won't find anywhere else.
Well, we have 2 alien portals. We have one in the front and one in the back.
And through
That's what she said.
he says they often get otherworldly visitors.
The grays, unfortunately, that we have run into in the house and on the property are anything but peaceful.
He says he has the scars to prove it.
I've killed 19 of them here on the property.
So after
No
20
shit, like
years
no
defending
bullshit.
his property from extraterrestrials,
They have large black bulbous eyes.
Edmonds and his wife say it's time to move.
It's going to go to somebody that understands the true nature of what's here.
The property is listed for $5 million. Its owner says it's going to.
I've killed 19 of them on my property. Talking about aliens.
In a way, we're
Yo, Sphinx.
offering a universe.
For that raid, man.
It's a place for teaching. It's a place for learning.
I'm Lauren Reimer.
What's going on, everybody?
For Arizona's family.
We're learning about some alien ranch.
Well, a sprawling 10-acre ranch property in Buckeye is for sale for
Thanks for the raid. Hope you guys are doing well.
The reason for the price tag might just be the connection
$5 million.
to, shall we say, extraterrestrial life. Team 12's Brandon Hamilton talked with the owner today.
I hope this guy gets abducted by aliens.
Down a lonely desert road sits the Stardust Ranch.
Almost immediately from the day
Same.
we moved in, we began to have strange experiences.
John Edmonds and his wife purchased the property in 1995 with hopes of it being a peaceful place to operate their Hopeful Hooves horse rescue and live in the
Pick it up for Nathan
This ranch
Fielder.
has been just about anything except that.
John first started seeing mysterious lights in the sky, followed by orange orbs. That's when the uninvited guests arrived.
They turn into goo
Aliens
when he kills them, I
that
guess.
attacked animals. They were in the house.
John recalls one
Yo, is that
unforgettable
fucking-
experience involving gray aliens attacking
Is that
his
Vinny's
wife.
alien?
Actually levitated her out of the bed.
It's bothering me that like part of his mustache is like way longer there than it is on the other side.
Into a craft.
Gail Chasen claims to have been visited by extraterrestrial life since she was 4 years old. She recently moved into the Stardust Ranch and has had a positive experience.
I had liver cancer last year. When I started to get better, I wanted to come here to heal completely. I'm stronger than I've ever been.
It's a mixed bag. It's not
Okay.
something that is going to be for a traditional family, but it also
He looks familiar. Doesn't he look like the guy from Storage Wars?
future opportunities to understand forces that
Doesn't he look like a guy from Storage Wars, kind of?
The ranch sits on 10 acres of desert land. The home features 3,500 square feet of living space.
You know what I'm
and a large
talking about?
swimming
Someone knows what I'm talking
It
about.
also comes with a guest house, a separate studio, and a hay barn. The property can accommodate up
That
to
was all that
20
green shit.
horses. But John has a warning for anyone interested.
please be very well grounded, because the energy here has a tendency to manifest whatever's going on with you.
Brandon Hamilton, 12 News.
Imagine being like the editor for the news network, and it's like, dude, you got to get the alien footage out. And it's like, they just turn the opacity up on the alien footage and like put it behind this man talking. All right, back to the real story. Now that we have some context. No, this is Stardust Ranch, not Skinwalker Ranch. This guy has killed aliens. All right. He has the sword to prove it. Intruders. Get that mouse out of there.
It had not been until early evening that John Edmonds had finally decided he'd had enough of hauling furniture.
This is the guy that we just saw.
And was ready to call it a day.
That was John Edmonds.
Stopping off at the kitchen in order to grab himself a hard-earned beer.
Hard-earned
he made his
beer.
way out onto the porch and sat quietly surveying his new home. The ranch that he and his wife Joyce had just purchased covered 10 acres of land, and in addition to the 5-bedroom building itself,
sound dead.
2 horse corrals. From an early age, John had dreamed of owning a place.
I just remembered I forgot to turn the subtitles on after somebody asked me.
Horses, and
I
he
was
had
playing
finally
Resident
made
Evil.
this a
Whoops.
reality. Sipping his beer, Edmonds noticed some movement in the undergrowth that lined the property's far perimeter.
As I'm watching these subtitles
After a few
scroll by.
moments, a solitary figure emerged from the tree line, striding with purpose across the open fields towards the house. John had not been expecting anyone.
Oh yeah, this is
and when
insane.
the fading sunlight suddenly glinted off something long and metallic held in the approaching figure's hand, he instinctively stepped back inside to grab his revolver. Re-emerging from the farmhouse, Edmonds began to walk towards the intruder, openly displaying the firearm in a show of warning. As the distance between them closed, he found himself thinking that this must be something to do with the debacle surrounding the belongings of the previous owners. Several days prior, when he and Joyce had arrived at the ranch, they had found to their dismay that the premises were still filled with furniture and personal possessions. A phone call was made to the agents, who apologized profusely
Like, oh, yo, bunch of free shit.
and asked them to come back the following
Bad
day
Ben.
once they had spoken to the previous tenants. The next morning, John had returned to find the house empty, but every fixture and fitting was now mysteriously broken up and deposited outside in the empty swimming pool. Another call was made to the agents, who denied all knowledge of this, stating they had still not heard back from the previous owners. After another day of waiting, Edmonds had finally lost his patience with the situation and arranged to have the unwanted mess disposed of himself. As the two men pulled up a few feet short of one another, an uneasy silence descended on the scene. The stranger was dressed in the well-worn fatigues of an army veteran, with unkempt hair and a distinctly haunted expression. But it was the rusted machete he was brandishing that held John's attention.
Guy just
and
walks
caused
up
him
on
to
your
keep his
property with a
hand
fucking
firmly on his
machete.
gun. When the man spoke, his words were hushed, and he claimed to have worked for the previous owners. Edmonds calmly explained that the property had now changed hands, and asked the former employee why he was carrying the blade. The stranger replied that it was for hunting monsters, which is what he had been paid to do.
Oh, okay.
John thought for a moment, then calmly told the man that his help was no longer required, as he had not seen any monsters recently. There was another brief pause before a mocking peal of laughter burst from the rancher's lips. The man petulantly threw the machete to the ground and began to walk away, before
Yeah,
turning
that's pretty
and
anime.
shouting that John would be sorry.
You'll be
As
sorry.
he watched the retreating figure disappear back into the trees, the new owner of Stardust Ranch had no idea just how true this statement would be.
You just call your ranch Stardust Ranch and
Initially,
be like, yeah,
the
everything's fine.
idyllic rural existence they had chosen worked well for John and Joyce.
Yeah, what's this link, Goomba?
Over the first few weeks, they started to receive a steady supply of sick and neglected horses. Being only an hour and a half's drive from Phoenix meant that everything they needed was within easy reach. The first sign that the agents might not have been entirely honest about how they had marketed the property came when John tried to get the ranch's faulty phone line repaired. Despite having arranged 3 different appointments, nobody from the phone company had ever materialized to fix the problem. It was not until he registered a formal complaint that an engineer had reluctantly made a brief
I mean, it does kind of look like
appearance.
him in the drawing. I give
When
him
he
credit.
did eventually arrive, the repairman worked as fast as he could to rectify the problem.
I love
to
the
point where John
illustrator
demanded
for
to
these
know why
guys.
he was
Does
so
such a
eager
good
to
job.
leave. Without pausing to stop what he was doing, the worker hurriedly explained that the ranch was cursed, and that everybody in the local community went out of their way to avoid it. Several days after this unsettling conversation, it became clear to John that not everybody was choosing to avoid his property.
I'm sure there's a little bit more to
On
it.
his morning rounds, he noticed that somebody had been tampering with the fencing that surrounded the 2 horse corrals. At several points, the metal fence posts had been wrenched out of the ground, and in some cases, they had been bent and twisted out of shape.
He's
The
pissed. Look
incidents
at him.
continued, with the damage becoming progressively worse. John would hear strange humming noises at night, but when he went outside to look, he could not find their source. Only with the arrival of daylight the following morning
Fucking
would the full
piss.
extent of the damage be discovered. Things eventually came to a climax when he
You
found
ain't
one of the
seen
horses
nothing yet.
dead.
Oh no.
The unfortunate animal had been choked to death by a heavy iron post,
The
which
fuck?
had somehow been warped and twisted around its neck.
Oh no, they're going to show the horse.
It was only as John puzzled over what could have bent the thick metal bar in such a way
Not
that
the
Joyce broke
horse.
down and told him that she felt like there were people in the farmhouse watching her. She said that she had caught sight of shadowy figures following her from room to room, silhouettes that only appeared at the periphery of her vision and seemed to dissolve or vanish when she tried to focus on them. Edmonds tried to reassure her that she was just tired and on edge because of the vandalism, but the senseless death of the horse concerned him.
Yeah.
He decided to start placing weapons within easy reach at strategic points around the house.
That seems like a bad
A
idea.
deceptive period of calm then followed, but it was not long before the situation took a terrifying turn for the worse. One evening, John was awake in bed, unable to settle due to Joyce's periodic snoring.
Oh shit, Joyce.
Whilst he lay staring at the room's far wall,
Shots fired at
the
Joyce.
shadows there suddenly seemed to swell and contort before a trio of dark figures materialized. Frozen in terror, he watched helplessly as the shadowy intruders slowly made their way over to his wife's side of the bed.
The fuck?
As the lead figure reached out towards her, John felt his fear suddenly turn to rage. With a roar of anger, he leapt to his feet, reaching down for the aluminium baseball bat beside the bed.
Aluminium.
In seconds, he was across the room, lashing out at the dark shapes that were now leaning over his sleeping
Dun
wife.
dun dun
With a wild swing,
dun dun.
he felt the metal bat connect with the nearest one. There was a high-pitched shriek before the figures immediately vanished, leaving a bewildered Joyce asking John why he was stood looming over her with a baseball bat.
I guess this is one way to
The police were
explain
called, but
how
they
your
could
wife
find no evidence
found
to
you
back
about to
up
kill
John's
her in the middle of the
claim.
night. It was
They seemed
aliens.
more concerned with the array of
I
weapons
swear
that
it
had
was
been stashed in
aliens.
each room, and their departure only seemed to embolden whoever or whatever had invaded
They're
their
all
home.
over the place.
On a weekly basis from this point onwards, John Edmonds would find himself fighting for both his and his wife's very survival. During the evenings, whilst he struggled to stay awake watching over Joyce, Edmonds began to hear deep humming sounds off in the distance. Occasionally, when he looked out of his window, he would observe what appeared to be gaping portals of some kind, inexplicably appearing in the middle of the night sky, illuminating the surrounding darkness.
I couldn't take some pictures of it.
John witnessed mysterious craft and bright orbs of light disappearing into the portals,
You
which
know?
would then close behind them, leaving no trace of their existence. Sometimes these objects would be shadowed or pursued by what looked like military aircraft, fueling his suspicions that the government
picture,
were fully
man.
aware of what was happening on the ranch. The nighttime incursions by the occupants of these craft continued. John observed that they always moved around in groups of 3, seemingly possessing the ability to pass through locked windows and doors. He described them as being approximately 4 feet tall, with skin that was deathly cold to the touch.
Well, why are you touching their skin?
On the occasions where he was able to get close enough to strike out at them with a knife or other bladed instrument, Edmonds stated that the fluid which issued forth from their wounds had a
See,
similar
I
consistency
don't believe the
to
aliens
brake
would be
fluid.
that dumb that they're getting stabbed and
evening,
shit.
Edmonds saw the family
No way.
Rottweiler pursuing a group of these creatures across the ground outside the house. It was able to catch and bite one of them, which
No
subsequently
way.
disappeared into
What?
thin air.
The aliens are not getting
Tragically,
bit by dogs.
The dog immediately began to choke, dying a short time afterwards.
What?
The rancher would lose a further 2 dogs in identical circumstances, but these were not the only animals that would suffer. Some of the horses would also be found
It
mutilated.
reminds me of like in Signs when that alien
At
gets
other
like locked in a
times, you would
cupboard
see
and it's
the
like, how the
hulking
fuck is an
shadows of
alien
what
getting
he
locked in a
called gorilla
cupboard if he
men,
traveled across
stalking the extremities
the
of his
fucking
property.
galaxy to invade
He
my
stated that
planet?
these creatures
But he's
resembled
dumb enough to get
Sasquatches.
locked in a fucking closet?
Despite his
The
best
fuck?
efforts, Edmonds could not possibly remain awake all the time, and he would often collapse out of sheer exhaustion. One evening, he had involuntarily dozed off, but was suddenly jolted awake with a feeling of pure dread. What he witnessed chilled him to his very core. Joyce was fast asleep in front of him, but was being lifted off the bed by a thin beam of bright light, being
Fucking
projected into the
grab
room
her.
from outside. As Joyce's sleeping form was propelled across the room towards the now open window, he knew he had to act fast. Up until this point, he had tried to avoid using his rifle.
I just don't
if
think they'd be
possible,
that dumb
due
to
the
like
fact his house was a brick building.
like
and for
come here and
fear
get
of his
like
neighbours
stuck in like
reporting him to
fucking
the police.
Walmart or some shit.
But now, he had no choice. In a heartbeat, John was outside, his assault rifle in hand. Without even looking to see what was emitting the beam of light, he
Oh,
aimed in
shit.
the direction and fired
Not
off an entire
fucking around.
magazine of ammunition, the weapon kicking wildly against his shoulder. He heard the rounds impacting off something metallic a short distance away, but the light beam continued to shine. Within moments, he'd reloaded.
Is it
and
like off
again
the
fired
grid?
blindly at the light
Shooting
source
a gun on his own property.
until it blinked out of existence.
You can do that.
In the sudden silence, he saw an undefined dark shape moving away from the house at great speed.
Helps that they're in the
before
middle
it
of nowhere.
disappeared into a portal. Returning to the bedroom, he found his wife collapsed in a corner.
Probably like shot up his neighbor's trailer or something.
By
like that.
now, John was beside himself and resorted to handcuffing Joyce to the bed in order to prevent her from being taken.
Yeah, that seems like a good theory.
Despite his best efforts, both he and his wife began to experience periods of missing time. Sometimes, when they awoke, they would find strange and inexplicable injuries on their bodies. The most worrying of these resembled deep cuts or lacerations, which had healed as if some lengthy period of time had passed since they were inflicted.
Wonder how that happened.
Finally, an exasperated Edmonds contacted the local media, pleading for assistance from anybody who could help rid him of the attackers. He participated in radio and television interviews, allowing ufologists and research teams to visit the ranch.
I mean, you saw her
However,
a few minutes
the
ago in that
problems
interview.
persisted. Eventually, after 20 years desperately trying to follow his dream, John was forced to give in. In 2016, he and Joyce sold Stardust Ranch and moved away.
Who lives here
never
now?
to return. At first glance, the story of John and Joyce Edmonds.
Oh yeah,
is
didn't
as
Zach
easy to
Bagans like try to
dismiss as
buy
many
this
other
place?
tales of
I think
its
he did go
kind.
there.
A scenario where supposed intelligent alien life has elected to harass and torment an unremarkable couple over a 20-year time frame seems an unlikely one. The apparent inability to capture their assailants on film at
Yeah, I'm
any
almost
point during
positive
those
Zach
2
Bagans has been
decades
here.
also seems somewhat unconvincing. John Edmonds himself said that he had killed 18 of the creatures that invaded his home, but never presented any of the bodies.
Well, yeah, where are the bodies?
He did explain that they disappeared immediately after death, which many skeptics believe is highly convenient.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Many commentators who have examined the incident are also quick to point out that prior to going public with his story, John Edmonds had been looking to sell the ranch for $1 million US. In the aftermath of the resultant media circus, the property would end up being sold for more than 5 times that price. So rather than a terrifying and shocking case of alien harassment, could this in fact be one of the most successful marketing ploys in the history
For $5
of real
million more
estate?
dollars? Okay.
Ultimately, that could be the case.
Yeah, I
but
think
there
that might
remains a
have something to do with it.
significant number of incidents that add weight to the story. And this is in no small part due to the fact that John and Joyce are not the only people to report strange activity on the property, with the number of alleged witnesses being much
Yeah,
higher.
aliens have been helping Nazis forever.
Gina Ryans and her family lived at the ranch during the 1970s, and since John Edmonds went public, she also came forward to speak to the media about her past experiences. She describes ghostly figures that would unexpectedly invade the home, with her and her younger brother feeling temperatures plunge dramatically whenever the entities passed from room to room. In 2015, the Ghost Adventures team spent several days at the ranch whilst filming an episode of their show. During the visit, a number of mysterious lights and strange figures were observed moving around the property.
When Zach was there,
with one
that
of the team
happened?
members sustaining unexplained bruises to one of her arms. They left the ranch believing that the intruders were not extraterrestrial in nature, but were instead demonic entities masquerading as aliens. They arrived at this conclusion because the creatures seemed to retreat whenever prayers or biblical texts were recited by the victims.
It was
They also
ghosts
went on to state
pretending
that
to
there
be
was a
aliens.
spirit of a man haunting the property, who shot himself in the living room. On another occasion, a different research team reported having disturbed a thin humanoid figure that ran off and disappeared into the undergrowth. When the investigators searched the area,
Slenderman?
they discovered a circular stone, into which a mysterious star shape had somehow been carved.
Oh, and that's why it's called Stardust.
The most intriguing and well-publicized evidence to come out of Stardust Ranch occurred during a live web chat between John and the Camelot Project's Kerry Cassidy in 2016.
He looks like he just
It was
woke
only
up.
when Cassidy was reviewing the footage of the interview that she noticed what appeared to be a short grey figure momentarily peeking out
It's
from
like
behind the wall.
nothing.
This went unnoticed by Edmonds, who had been sitting with his back towards it.
Yeah, this is what
In
I was looking for
2013,
before, actually.
A mutual friend put John in contact with a biologist
Oh,
by
that
the name
guy.
of William Levengood.
That guy looks familiar. I think he was on Ancient
After some
Aliens.
initial consultation between the two men, Edmonds was able to send Levengood samples of tissue and fluid that had been left behind after he had struck one of the intruders with a short sword. A few days later, Levengood contacted him in an excited state. The DNA he'd extracted from the tissue was unlike anything else on Earth. Alongside this, the fluid that John had provided was completely saturated with a substance resembling chlorophyll, and was very similar to samples that had been collected at the scene of cattle mutilations all around the globe. Levengood asked John if he was prepared to go public with the findings, and then disclosed that he himself intended to reach out to the rest of the scientific community. After this call, things went unexpectedly quiet, and it would not be until several weeks later, when he tried to regain contact with Levengood, that Edmonds was informed the scientist had died.
Maybe he's not the guy from Ancient Aliens?
With growing apprehension,
Maybe he never existed?
John inquired what had happened to his samples.
Is there any proof
only
of
to
this
be
man
informed that
existing
there
ever?
had been a fire at the laboratory a few days after Levengood's death, and that nothing had been salvaged. He would later discover that Levengood's wife had also died, not long after her husband. This is perhaps not as strange as it sounds, as both the biologist and his wife were in their 80s. Nevertheless,
Getting too
Levengood's
close.
death would further raise John's suspicions about the government
You're
somehow
gonna break
being
his
involved.
glasses.
But it was an unexpected visit, not long after he had contacted the media, which finally convinced him that the authorities were working against him. About 2 weeks after he had spoken to the press,
Oh, shit.
John was working in one of the corrals.
Why does that
when
man
he
in
saw
black
two
have a
men
John
dressed in
Waters
black suits
mustache?
standing outside the main gates.
I'd watch
As he
that.
watched in disbelief, the two figures seemed to walk straight through the metal bars before approaching him and ordering him to keep quiet about the activity on his property. The two men, who wore dark hats and sunglasses and emitted a foul odor, then walked away.
Yeah,
before
John Waters probably
disappearing
is an alien.
completely.
It would make sense.
Whether or not you believe John Edmonds, there does appear to be a degree of honesty in his retelling of events. He has been accused of exaggerating his accounts, but has remained steadfast in his conviction. People who have interviewed him in relation to his claims state that he is a sober and convincing witness. His stories, whilst fantastic in nature, are always told in a grounded and
Yeah, he's got
logical
that
manner,
fit.
with the traumatic effects they have left upon his soul clear in the way that he relates them. It's possible that he may have exaggerated his accounts, but we can't help but feel there is perhaps more to this story.
About to hit the club up.
Whilst others have advocated the fact that he has profited from this misery as
I
a
don't
reason
know
to
if I'd
doubt him,
use sober. It's so
why
weird
not
to
turn a bad
describe that
situation to
guy.
one's advantage if the opportunity so
I killed
arises?
18 aliens.
It doesn't do his integrity any favours, but it doesn't mean that there is no truth to his story either. It's interesting to note just how much the ranch would eventually sell for, more than 5 times the asking price, which is unheard of for properties in that area.
That's kind of insane.
Assuming the buyer purchased the property because of its supernatural activity, this seems like a huge investment to make based on witness testimony alone.
It seems like important information.
One has to wonder whether the new owner has witnessed the activity for themselves. In any case, the descriptions of events bear a striking similarity to the incidents which took place at the more famous Skinwalker Ranch. Alongside this, Arizona itself remains a hotbed for some of the most infamous UFO incidents reported on American soil. Stardust Ranch lies only a stone's throw from where people have historically gathered to observe the famed Phoenix Lights. It is also close to the town of Snowflake.
Phoenix Lights have always been kind of interesting to me.
In 1975. In future episodes, we intend
I think it was
to
just
return
like
to the
flares,
State
but
to cover these and other associated stories.
pretty fascinating story.
Whatever
So many
the
people
case
saw
may
it.
be, there does appear to be a degree of correlation between this story and those of other reported incidents, although we concede that it is difficult to believe due to the lack of any supporting evidence. If there is any truth to the tale surrounding Stardust Ranch, we can only hope that John and Joyce have finally found the peace which they so desperately fought for.
Yeah, the Skinwalker Ranch documentary is kind of interesting. I like the Stardust Ranch better, though, honestly. The sword. They should have shown the sword. I don't know why they didn't. You gotta show the sword. Come the fuck on, man. All right, we'll watch one more bedtime story, I think. Watch a good one, though. How about... This one's kind of cool. This is a little older.
They utilized stealth, operating unseen and undetected beneath the waves
Yo, that
until they
fucking submarine is
disappeared just as
cracked.
silently as they had patrolled the oceans, never to be heard from again, leaving us to wonder, why did 4 submarines
Who's this
suddenly
now?
vanish during the spring months of 1968?
Giant squid. Aliens. Conspiracies. Cryptids. Yo, what is that thing? I think that's like a Japanese cryptid. What is that guy? Giant, like, person. Not a Numibozu. Something else. Or subs.
With the exception of elite naval special forces, such as Britain's SBS or the United States Navy SEALs, submariners are arguably some of the toughest sailors to grace any nation's seaborne forces. Not only is their training more rigorous than that of the surface
Looks like they like
fleet,
start melting into one
they must
another as it
also
goes
face
down the line.
prospect of being confined to cramped conditions inside a vessel which can stay submerged beneath the waves for months on end. In the early days of submarine warfare, structural and mechanical failures were commonplace, and the fear of plunging headlong into the black depths of the abyss with little hope of escape was ever present. Should anything go wrong, these
fuck
sailors
that.
faced only a single fate: drowning in
Submariner
freezing
is a
cold
word?
waters,
Yeah, pretty sure.
whilst being crushed to a pulp under intense pressures.
Why not?
Before being
Son of a
imprisoned
submariner.
forevermore in a steel tomb at the bottom of the sea. It would have taken a very particular strength of mind to accept the possibility of such a fate. By the
I guess it's like any other
1960s,
fucking
however,
vehicle, but
technology and improvements in submarine design had moved on considerably, and the likelihood of such failures was significantly reduced, allowing vessels to operate almost with impunity.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be
in
in
this in
one.
mind, we have to ask ourselves, why then would a groundbreaking new generation of submarine ever disappear without warning during relative peacetime? And
Giant
strange as it may
squids,
seem,
man.
not just one, but 4 submarines did exactly that in 1968, vanishing under highly mysterious circumstances, never to be heard from again. The submarines in question were the Israeli vessel INS Dakar, an experimental French sub known as the Minerve, the Soviet Union's K-129, and the United States Navy's Scorpion. Each loss occurred within a short time frame, and in some cases, within just days of one another.
It's kind of weird.
In relatively close proximity, leading many people to believe in later years that something sinister was behind these
It
disappearances.
just depends on how often like a submarine sinks, I
The
guess.
mystery began in late January with the INS Dakar, the oldest of the 4 ill-fated vessels, which was previously in service with the Royal Navy under the name HMS Totem.
Well, if it was that
Completed
old.
in 1943,
Yeah.
she was one of 53 T-class submarines built by the British during the Second World War to combat German patrols. In the post-war years, she was retasked to track Soviet submarines and went through an extensive refit in 1951, which saw significant enhancements to her operational capabilities. By 1965, however, the Royal Navy was looking to replace its aging submarine fleet and sold the Totem to Israel, where she was redesignated INS Dakar.
And then they
Under
just
the
crashed
command
it
of Major
immediately.
Yakov Rahanen, INS Dakar set sail from Portsmouth, England,
was
on the
pissed
9th
about
of
that.
January 1968, heading for the port of Haifa in Israel. The plan was for the Dakar to arrive by the 2nd of the following month, but by the 15th of January, it became clear that she was making excellent time. Major Rahanen notified headquarters and requested that he be allowed instead to enter port on the 29th, 3 days earlier than scheduled. This was approved, and throughout the journey, Rahanen continued to send transmissions reporting his vessel's status and position. At some point on or after midnight on the 25th of January, the Dakar was just off the coast of Crete and heading for Cyprus when she reported encountering a storm. Nevertheless, she sent a communication stating, "The Dakar is in the depths at full strength," a message that would later take on a chilling sense of irony, as from that point onward, any attempts to contact the crew were met with an eerie silence.
So what, did they lose it in the Mediterranean?
The British Admiralty, who were tracking the vessel, sent word to the port of Haifa stating that the Dakar's signal was lost, and a call was relayed to several naval units in the Mediterranean,
Not like
requesting assistance in
deepest
locating
place
the
in the
missing
world.
submarine. Ships from Israel, Great Britain, the US, Greece,
Israel.
Turkey and Lebanon joined the search, combing a vast area of water, but ultimately found nothing, except for the Dakar's rear emergency buoy. This was located southeast of the island of Cyprus, and was found to have activated its automated distress beacon. Despite this, by the 29th of January, all non-Israeli units had abandoned the search. The Israelis followed suit a week later, when even they concluded that none of the 69-man crew would have survived stranded on the sea floor for so long. 32 years would pass by before the Dakar was finally located.
Holy shit,
resting on the
32
seabed
years?
At a depth of almost 10,000 feet, between the islands of Crete and Cyprus. The cause of her sinking has never been determined. And this would have remained nothing more
That's
than
pretty
a
creepy.
little-known maritime mystery, if not for another submarine, which
And
would
they don't
also
know
disappear
why?
without trace just 2 days later, whilst also on patrol in the Mediterranean.
Like no record at all.
Launched in 1961 and designed for low-level reconnaissance in shallow waters, the S-647 Daphne-class Minerve was an experimental cruise missile-carrying vessel, measuring in at just 58 meters. Due to her small size, she was purpose-built for long-range missions and had a phenomenal track record for sailing long distances. By the time she was
It looks like
commissioned
it's like
in
Venice or something.
1964, The French Navy already had it in mind to center her operations in the Mediterranean Sea. By June of 1967, she was stationed in the port of Toulon and outfitted for her first set of operational cruises in that area. Command was handed over to Lieutenant André Fauve on the 26th of January 1968, and him and his crew of 50 enlisted men were ordered to take her out to sea for a routine reconnaissance patrol the following day. The 27th proved to be precarious, however, as rough storms hampered the progress of the Miner's patrol.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Soon after, the order was given to cancel the operation,
I
and
bet
Lieutenant
boats
Fauve
and
radioed
subs go missing
headquarters,
way more often than
advising
we
that he
think.
would arrive back
Probably
in
wouldn't
port an hour
tell
later.
anyone about it.
The Minerve travelled at snorkel
Unless they
depth
had to.
at a steady pace of 12
I don't know.
knots, and was only 25 nautical miles away from port when, without warning, she vanished.
Oh.
When French Naval Command learned that the sub had failed to return, the order was given to launch an immediate search, but this had to be delayed until the storm had passed.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Once the
yeah.
search got underway, it became frustratingly evident that no trace of the submarine could be found,
Vietnamese submarine?
even with assistance from British and
Who was
US
it?
ships.
I do know what you're talking about
Despite
now.
a thorough search covering a 320-mile radius, nothing was ever seen or heard of the Minerve again. No wreckage, no bodies, nothing. It seemed as if she had simply been plucked from the sea.
Gone.
And unfortunately,
Aliens,
that
Indonesian.
remains the case to this day. Could it have been mere coincidence that two submarines, both manned by experienced and well-trained crews, would disappear within 48 hours of one another, without explanation, especially since both had been heading for their home ports? Even more astonishing is that two more submarine disappearances were to follow within a matter of weeks. At the time of its commission in 1961, the USS Scorpion was one of the latest state-of-the-art vessels, powered by the new S5W nuclear reactor engine, one of the first of its kind. She was named in honor of an earlier submarine,
Looks like it's made out of like
also
greenhouse
called
glass.
Scorpion, which was also lost under mysterious circumstances in the Pacific Ocean during World War II.
Well, that seems like a fucking
Assigned
bad
to
idea then.
NATO's European Command Theatre, the Scorpion participated in numerous patrol runs throughout the North Atlantic,
Self-fulfilling
the Caribbean,
prophecy.
and the US East Coast, and even took part in a secret mission to infiltrate Russian waters and document Soviet missile bases.
Yeah, this is older than 2018.
Her marvellous exploits earned her and her crew many accolades
This
over
one's
the
pretty
next
old.
half-decade.
That's cool to hear, though.
However, 6 years is a long time in submarine warfare.
2018,
and
July
by
22nd.
1967, she was beginning to show signs of wear and tear. In February that year, she slipped back to her home port in
February
Norfolk,
that
Virginia,
year.
to get a full overhaul, but strangely, she underwent only minimal repairs.
Hold on a second.
To her hull and engine.
Sorry about that.
She then received new orders in October to set sail for the Mediterranean Sea, to patrol waters close to where the Dakar
Yeah, it looks like
would
it's
be
made out of
lost a few
glass.
months later. Now sailing under a new captain, Commander Francis Slattery.
That's fucking
The
creepy.
Scorpion passed Gibraltar.
The
in
day that they
February
published this, that's the day
1968,
they found that submarine. It's
operating
kind of
with
weird.
the US 6th Fleet. But whilst there, she suffered a
Serendipitous.
series of mechanical problems. Severe leaks broke out in
Like a
both
blimp,
the Freon
yeah, I can
coolant
see that.
system and the afterscape trunk.
Oh, it's 2019.
The latter of which
Still kinda
resulted
weird.
in an electrical fire, which forced the sub to reduce its speed and sail at the safe depth of 500 feet. It was soon discovered that the Scorpion was suffering from structural malfunctions as a result of incomplete modifications, which by May 1968 meant that she had to sail back to Norfolk for further repairs. On the 12th of May, she docked at Naval Station Rota, Spain, to drop off 2 crew members, before heading back out into the Atlantic 3 days later, providing escort to the ballistic missile sub USS John C. Calhoun, which was being tracked by Soviet submarines at the time. After safely delivering her charge to the Azores,
That's pretty fucking
Slattery was then
stressful.
ordered to make a speedy return to Norfolk on the 21st of May. Sometime
Seems like
after
a mistake
midnight
could
on
be
the
made pretty
22nd,
easily.
however, Slattery sent a message back to base, informing his superiors that he had sighted Soviet ships operating along his route and was moving to observe them. This would be the last time anyone heard from the USS Scorpion. There was no immediate concern for the first 48 hours, but after 6 days without word, the US Navy declared the Scorpion missing and ordered an extensive search. A number of ships from Great Britain, Spain, Greece and the US took part, some of them having also assisted in trying to locate the Dakar and the Minerve. But even with this added help, the Scorpion could not be found.
Not the Scorpion.
On the 5th of June, the Navy declared her lost at sea and struck her name from its register of active submarines. It would not be until October 1968 that she was finally located on the sea floor, beneath 10,000 feet of water, some 500 miles southwest of the Azores.
That wasn't that long after that.
The US Navy carried out extensive analysis of the wreckage, but the cause of her sinking is still not fully understood. Despite having occurred more than half the world away, there are theories that suggest the sinking of the USS Scorpion may in fact have been linked to the disappearance nearly 3 months earlier of another sub, the Soviet Union's K-129.
I think it was revenge.
Because Soviet documents of the K-129 were misplaced or are unavailable, we do not know what her actual orders were, but we do know that she was a nuclear-powered submarine built for long-distance endurance missions with a proven track record of 2 70-day-long tours at sea. Completed in 1960 and carrying a crew of 83, she was outfitted with 4 long-range 1-megaton ballistic missiles and could travel at speeds of 17 knots per hour submerged, a very fast speed for the time. Largely operating in the North Pacific Ocean, K-129 was one of the Soviet Navy's prized submarines.
No, like one of the
been ordered
submarines
to
from
patrol American naval
Red
zones
October.
around Hawaii. On the 24th of February, K-129 was ordered to commence her 3rd tour of duty and conduct a series of diving tests. After completing these tests, she made for the open sea and sent back status updates on a regular basis. By the 26th of February, however, her routine check-ins had ceased altogether, and the Soviets soon launched a massive search. Despite their attempts at secrecy, it was not long before US naval intelligence soon picked up signs of a large Soviet deployment in the region, prompting them to conduct a search of their own. Using superior sonar equipment, in August 1968,
The US Navy found
the
it
US
before they
Navy
did.
located
Oh,
the
shit.
K-129, approximately 1,500 miles northwest of Hawaii, at a depth of 4,900 feet.
Like the middle of nowhere.
Her hull was shattered, and much of the debris was scattered across the ocean floor. A survey of the area also revealed her nuclear reactor had broken apart, and radioactive material had spread over a 20-mile radius. As with the other 3 submarines, the exact cause of the K-129 sinking remains a mystery to this day.
Does sound like some Godzilla
Needless
shit.
to say, such a huge and inexplicable loss of life in such a short space of time was puzzling to many people. The high seas were enjoying a period of relative peacetime. Yes, the Cold War was in full swing, and US troops were on the ground in Vietnam, but there were very few, if any, engagements between maritime forces during this time. The sinking of not just 1, but 4 military-grade vessels, which were never under serious threat of attack, seemed highly unusual and invited some highly unusual theories. The sea is a dark and foreboding place, and for centuries, even millennia, people have held a peculiar fascination and a natural curiosity
Megalodon.
regarding what lurks beneath the surface. History is littered with stories of giant sea monsters attacking ships and other
Hell
vessels,
yeah, here we go.
as well as eyewitness accounts of USOs, otherwise known as unidentified submerged objects. So it comes as no surprise that these things have been thrown into the mix of possible explanations. However, there is no evidence to suggest that any of these submarines encountered anything like this.
Yeah,
So
just like a
instead,
giant arm
we are
reaches
left
up
to
out of the
contemplate
like
more rational theories.
sea of the
It is
or
reasonable
the
to assume
the
that
bed of the
most,
sea,
if
grabs
not
the
all
submarine,
of these vessels
crushes it.
sank as the result of human
We're getting
error.
on to talk now.
That either a lapse in judgment, a mechanical or structural failure, or navigational miscalculation caused each submarine to slip below its respective crush depth and then sink
Giant
to the
arm
sea floor.
just grabbing
After
submarines.
all, Dakar was well over 20 years old. The Minerve's design was relatively untested. The Scorpion was both structurally and mechanically unstable, and the K-129 was more than likely in the wrong place at the wrong time. Perhaps the loss of all 4 of them within the same year is nothing more than a tragic coincidence. Despite this, some theories regarding hostile action persist. Israel's diplomatic relations with her neighbours were extremely tense at the time, and outside interference could not be entirely ruled out. The Dakar sank just 6 months after Israel's victory over Egypt in the Six-Day War. During that same conflict, Israeli fighter planes had attacked the USS Liberty, and some theorised that the US Navy had in fact sunk the Dakar in retaliation. Others believed the Soviet Union, an ally of the Arab nations defeated by Israel, may have had the vessel intercepted and the whole crew captured. Soviet submarines were known to operate in the Mediterranean, and interestingly, the Dakar may have been a specific target for the Soviets due to her past service with the Royal Navy. Years earlier, as HMS Totem, she had carried out manoeuvres to blockade Soviet ports in the Baltic Sea, as the British attempted to counter the growing threat from the Soviet Union's submarine fleet during the Cold
I wouldn't doubt
War.
there's way more things like
And finally, in 1970,
bottom of the ocean,
Egyptian news
or even
media
deeper
made
than
the
that, like
claim
under the
that
surface.
the Dakar had actually been sunk in a depth
Haven't been
charge
found
attack
yet.
by one of its Navy's mine trawlers, though this claim was never substantiated and was dismissed entirely by the international community. Whilst the Minerve was suspected to have disappeared due to an accident or malfunction, the same could not be said with 100% certainty for the USS Scorpion and Soviet K-129. As previously mentioned, there are theories to suggest that although the 2 vessels were nowhere near each other at the time of their sinking, their loss may in fact be related. In his book Scorpion Down, Ed Offley hypothesized that the Soviet flotilla the Scorpion had tailed prior to her disappearance was in fact responsible for her sinking, and that it had been given secret information detailing where she would be. Offley even pointed out the US Navy, led by the turncoat spy John Anthony Walker, who informed the KGB and the Soviet Navy that the Scorpion would be making her way home via the Azores. Using this information, the flotilla is believed to have engaged and destroyed the sub. Another book, All Hands Down by Kenneth Sewell, also
Why
suggested
wouldn't
that
that
the
have
US
like
Navy
caused a
and the
conflict
Soviet
though?
fleet learned of this fact shortly afterwards and then agreed to cover it up in an attempt to keep tensions from exploding into a full-blown confrontation. This theory therefore suggests that incidents such as this were commonplace throughout the Cold War, and that numerous attacks took place on a regular basis, all of which may have been covered up to avert an all-out nuclear war. Whilst officially, Soviet Naval Command stated that it never once issued a fire order to any of its operational submarines, many claims by both US and British Royal Navy commanders suggest otherwise, and theories abound that the USS Scorpion may in fact have been a trade-off casualty for the sinking of the K-129 a few months earlier. Many high-level
it's kind of what I thought.
commanders
Like it was just like a
believed
trade-off.
that
They just
another
like
US
blow up
sub
each other's subs
had
all the time.
encountered and engaged the K-129 in the waters off Hawaii. This is not beyond all possibility, for American submarines were known to trail their Soviet counterparts in that area and at dangerously close distances.
There's like war games,
The theory
kind
of
of.
an engagement, or even a collision, gained traction when another American sub, the USS Swordfish, sailed into a Japanese port for repairs to a damaged periscope. American commanders were quick to state that the sub had allegedly run into an iceberg in the North Pacific, but Soviet command noted she arrived in Japanese waters just days after the K-129 had been reported missing. Interestingly, the US Navy located the K-129 and in 1975 began a salvaging operation, which was codenamed Project Azorian.
There you go.
We hardly need to point out that the Azores was the Scorpion's last known location. So what are we to make of all this? Did these submarines suffer at the hands of incompetence, either on the high seas or whilst back in port? Were they lost to hostile engagement? Or did they meet some other fate that sits beyond the realm of our understanding? Unfortunately,
They sailed
there
into
is
the
no
hollow
precise
earth.
narrative, no clear indication of exactly what occurred. people will inevitably make up their own minds and believe whatever they want to believe. In the end, the question over why so many experienced young men needlessly lost their lives is as tragic as it is mysterious, especially for the families involved. The families that never received the answers
the submarine
they so
disappeared.
desperately needed.
Know where your son is.
So many people were affected by these tragedies, and we can only hope they find solace in the knowledge that their loved ones died in the service of protecting their homelands.
The submarine just shows up
May
again.
they rest in peace.
Everyone's the same age. I bet there's been stories like that before too. Boom, boom, boom.